Hush, little baby. It's only rock and roll. And rock and roll is good for your soul.